Winston-Salem, North Carolina, you're watching the ACC on ESPN. The snow has melted away. There is college basketball to play as Davidson's in town to tangle with Wake Forest. The Wildcats at 8-2. The Deeks out of the ACC at 5-3. With Chris Patola, Roy Philpott, great to have you with us. And Chris, the Wildcats led by John Axel Goodmanson, who needs to play well tonight to give Davidson a chance.
He does. The guards in this game tonight are outstanding. It starts with Axel Goodmanson. He's so tough and has learned to really contribute universally. He's their leading rebounder, second leader in points, can fill it up in a lot of ways, and can certainly knock down a three-point shot. Is having a great season to this point. One of those Davidson guards we've come to expect. And then how about Brandon Childress, the year he's having? 16 points a game, incredibly efficient, has really become a much more efficient scorer, plays at a really good pace, has that nice hesitation. Look at this little step, hesitation into the pull-up. This guard matchup tonight, those guys will play against each other. Should be a lot of fun.
Starting five for the Wildcats, led by John Axel Goodmanson, the junior out of Iceland. And you may notice Mitch missing one key component, Kellen Grady, out for the second consecutive game. He missed the last game against Temple with a knee injury. And Chris, Bob McKillop telling us earlier today it is a day-to-day injury. His loss important tonight as he's the leading scorer.
Well, and he's one of the best players in the A-10. And anytime you take 19 points a game out of your offensive equation, that's a huge loss.
Starting five for the Deeks, led by Brandon Childress, the junior. Three different freshmen have secured starting spots at various points this season. The Deeks are young but talented. And more on that as we go through. Underway, the opening tap controlled by Wake Forest. Deeks off an 11-day hiatus due to exams. Ready to play some hoops tonight.
And Davidson played the other night, about a day and a half ago, and lost just a crushing defeat up in New Jersey to Temple.
Foul goes against Childress. That's his first, team's first. Yeah, you talk about a 36-hour turnaround from the boardwalk in Atlantic City down here to Winston-Salem. You lost in overtime, a game you probably should have won without Grady, no less.
They were up 7 at one point in that overtime. Temple closed the game on an 8-0 run. Really some uncharacteristic plays from Davidson down the stretch. Crushing loss.
Pritchett off the bounce, throws it up, and it comes up well short. Rebound to the Deeks. Davidson, the defending Atlantic 10 tournament champions from a year ago. Jalen Hort, our first look, and in traffic connects.
He is one of the best freshmen, certainly in the ACC, that nobody really knows about yet. He is long, he's athletic, he was a 5-star recruit and is having a fantastic season so far this year.
Pritchett off the mark, top of the key. Here come the Deeks. With these early non-conference matchups, and it's still early here in December, so critical. When you talk about strength of schedule, if you can get a road win, if you're Davidson, it just makes such an important difference come tournament time to the selection committee. Same goes for Wake Forest. Top of the key straight away, Brajkovic for three.
He was one of those guys, you know, everybody can shoot for Davidson. Brajkovic was one of those guys that the scouting report we saw earlier today, look, he's one guy you don't necessarily have to close out too hard, but in that Davidson fast break, that secondary break, those big guys trail the play, and that's a shot that they can knock down.
That's a shot in Hort's arsenal as well. He has all 5 Wake Forest points. Deeks by 2, still early. Davidson's offense and their sets, a lot of those very complex, as Hort swats that one into the first row.
He is going to be a star. I mean, look at how far he has to come over to make this play. What a reaction by the freshman. He's 6'8", 215 pounds, so he's physically ready to compete in the ACC. And he's going to become a much better offensive player, but has already had a very good season, averaging about 15 a game.
5 on the shot clock. Wildcats have to hurry. Pritchett thinking about it. And Brajkovic lost track. Bob McKillop searching for answers. You know, interesting. Not a lot of college basketball being played tonight. As you see McKillop, year number 30. What a Incredible job he has done building this Davidson program. But the fact that there aren't a lot of games, there are a lot of NBA scouts on hand this evening. 25, in fact, representing 20 different teams. And Hord's one of the players they want to see as Childress knocks down a three.
What a job he's done steadying a young team. The junior, giving him 16 a game, but it's his efficiency. Shooting about 52% from the floor. Just plays at a really good tempo.
Basket by Pritchett, 8-5 Deeks. I was a little surprised that that number of scouts would be here tonight to watch Hord, and also certainly they wanted to get a glimpse of Kellen Grady if he was healthy. Not the case, so he's on the bench. Inside, Sean D. Brown, the hoop.
Well, the one thing I know about this area is scouts come in and they do the whole triangle. So I would imagine that they'll hit Duke at some point, then Chapel Hill and NC State. It's one of the advantages of basketball in this part of the country and this part of the state.
Big game later this week between Duke and Texas Tech. Red Raiders off to a fast start once again this season. Brajkovic down low, too strong. Deeks off to a fast start. Wake Forest picked 11th in the ACC. Hord for three. What a start for number 10 for Wake Forest. He's got 8.
He came into this game only 3 made threes on the season. So it's not necessarily what he does, but he shows you he'll shoot it with confidence.
4 minutes in. Davidson trying to respond, cannot. Frampton off the mark. Childress pushing tempo in this one so far. And Hord swatted out of bounds. Fast start for the freshman with 8 points.
Despite what you've heard, there are other freshmen in this league who don't play for Duke. One of them is Jalen Hord. He's got it all. He'll take you outside. He's got it inside. He'll block some shots. He's got it all.
Fast start for Wake Forest here at home. The Deeks off an 11-day hiatus playing Davidson here tonight. Wildcats out of the Atlantic 10. Great to have you with us. Alongside of Chris Spatola, Roy Philpott here with you. Our unique broadcast position here at Wake Forest. Davidson 8-2, defending A-10 champs. They have a high upside again this season.
They do. It's amazing. Both these coaches told us how young their teams are. Fortunately for Bob McKillop, he's got 2 outstanding guards. Kellen Grady not playing tonight is, I think, the best player in the A-10. And then John Axel Goodmanson, the Icelandic star, has been terrific. So you have 2 guards like that, you got a chance to win any night, and particularly with the way they shoot it. And then Wake is young. You know, Childress has been their experience, but they play 3 freshmen who are going to be, at some point, terrific players in this league.
When you talk about the ACC, one of the top conferences in America, if not number 1. There's people out there suggesting the league could get 10, maybe 11 teams into the NCAA tournament. I think it's a bit premature to discuss that, but Wake Forest was picked 11th in the preseason media poll. So that may not sound like you're where you want to be, but at the end of the day, it may not be a bad spot at all. And the three-pointer is good for Davidson, 13-8. Luke Frampton from downtown.
Wake came out of the timeout there in a 2-3 zone. It's going to be hard to zone Davidson with how well they shoot, the volume of shooters they have, and they're outstanding at getting that ball inside and then out.
Olivier Sarr checking in, turns it over.
There's Jalen Hord. He was the 5-star guy of a very good recruiting class for Danny Manning. And you mentioned the NBA scouts here. There are a lot of folks who love him, and you see how physically gifted he is. Only a freshman, 6'8", about 215 pounds. And there's a versatility to his game. There's a diversity to do a lot of things.
I like what you said as well when you think about the Atlantic Coast Conference. Everybody talks about Duke and the talented freshmen stockpiled by Mike Krzyzewski in Durham, but there are other players in this league with NBA potential in year number 1. And Hord certainly headlines that list. And the foul against the Deeks here. Check that against Davidson. First on Carter Collins. There you see Danny Manning. So the recruiting has gone really well here. And we asked Coach today, I said, Danny, do you feel like you're close to where you want to be? And he said, well, we're young. But yeah, we kind of do. But we like the job that we've done on the recruiting trails. Now it becomes a matter of trying to allow that to resonate here on the court.
Well, he's had guys go, play well enough to either be drafted like a John Collins or think that they're good enough, which they weren't in Darrell Moore and Brian Crawford. But he's had players here. Now it's a matter, as it is for a lot of coaches, Roy. You can get talent, but then you have to retain that talent year to year.
First meeting between these two teams since way back in 2000. Two schools separated by about 50, 60 miles. Great to see this rivalry be renewed. 5 to shoot and a quick trigger off the Marcus Frampton.
Nice pass.
And inside, a foul on the floor. Go against the Wildcats. Dusan Kovacevic, the guilty party.
They play really a three-headed monster at their big position, Wake Forest, and Saar really I think probably the best offensive player out of that three-headed monster. 7 feet tall. They list him at 240. He was probably carrying a couple 10-pound dumbbells when they did that. But a good post, early post, right there at the front of the rim, the way they teach it, and a nice pass from Childress, and you get a foul.
Now Saar coming off a career-high 14 last time out. 24-point victory over Charlotte. Peaks back to work. Is it hard to bounce back after a long break, 11 days?
Well, it depends on what you were doing over those 11 days, obviously. But yeah, there's some rust early. What I like with Wake Forest is they certainly spent a lot of time drilling defense. I mean, Danny Manning wanted to become a better man-to-man defensive team, a better team at finishing those defensive possessions with a rebound. And I think their energy's been good. Playing Davidson when you're trying to become better defensively is not easy. They are so good offensively.
And Wake Forest off to a great start on the offensive end of the court. Saar's first bucket. Goodmanson in and out. Controlled by Torrey Johnson for Wake. The Wake Forest pushing tempo here in the early going. Childress for three.
They'll push
Childress
early.
with 6.
Yeah, they'll push early, and really for Childress to spot in the corner. The defense they don't find the corner. That's the last place transition defense will look. A nice kick out, and a good shot by Childress.
Wake Forest 4 of 5 from downtown to start this game tonight. Kovacevic inside. His first points. The lead is 8. And a blocking foul on Kovacevic. That'll be his second. Oh, Brandon Childress, 6 early points.
How about this kick out there? There's that corner. Nice little shot fake. One bounce, pull up, bottom.
Tis the season, bowl season that is, the Cherry Bundy Boca Raton Bowl between the MAC champs Northern Illinois facing Conference USA's UAB, who cut their football program just 4 years ago, reinstated it last season, won the title this year. A couple of great defenses, 7 o'clock Eastern on ESPN, also the ESPN app, so you can watch it anywhere. One name to watch in that game, Sutton Smith, number 15 for Northern Illinois. One of the top sack masters in the country the last 2 seasons. Out of the timeout, Jerome Wright Jr. off the mark from downtown. You're surprised by the efficient start for Wake Forest on offense?
Yeah, a little bit. Now, Davidson's defense is not what they do. But again, you mentioned the layoff for Wake Forest. The one thing about Wake, especially on the defensive end, that I think has been good defending Davidson to start is they do take up a lot of space. They're really a long team. They're athletic. They've been quick to the ball. Now Davidson shifting to that 2-3 zone.
After the 3 by Pritchett, the response by Brown. John D. Brown now with 5, and he's been in double figures each of his last 3 games.
And they're not a team, Wake, that takes or makes a lot of threes. Already 5. That was their 5th so far in this first half.
5 of 7 from bonus land. Will cover up a lot of mistakes. The corner by Frampton is short. The rebound by Sarr. A little surprised Davidson switches to the zone with Wake Forest red hot from deep. But here's a steal. Carter Collins comes out of there with it. And a foul. That'll go against Brown. His first. Ask you this too. At this point in the season, as you take a look at what Wake Forest has done this year, a lot of schools matching up here within the borders of North Carolina. Part of December, you're still trying to figure out what kind of team you have if you're Danny Manning, right? Because you're so young.
That's a big part of it. And it's hard to be consistent. First of all, one of the hallmarks of youth is inconsistency, but it's hard to be consistent when you can't, from game to game, guard people. Like that Charlotte win, 80-56, we just saw. That was their best defensive performance of the year. Their problem is offensively. They only have 2 games this year where they've had more assists than turnovers. And you know, again, that's a hallmark of being a really young team.
Outside to Pritchett, 2 to shoot. And a quick whistle, 3-second violation.
And this is a Davidson team. We mentioned the Temple game. You know, part of that was they turned the ball over 18 times. I mean, like, you'd go 3 games in a row where Davidson wouldn't have 18 turnovers. It gave Temple 31 points off of those turnovers. Now, again, they're playing without Kellen Grady, which is a huge loss. But they've been very loose with the basketball over the last several games here. Childress
Spots Brown. Wide open from the wing, and he connects. Brown with 8. His consistency has come under the spotlight here in Winston-Salem. He's always had the physical tools if the shot follows, and the consistency with that shot follows. Bonafide weapon for the Deeks this season. Six to shoot. Collins, air ball. And tapped out. Back to the Deeks.
And Brandon Childress allowing the game to come to him, not forcing it. He draws a lot of attention, and there's the throwback where Shawnee Brown steps into one. And like you said, Roy, he has been so good, particularly in their last 3 games, Shawnee Brown. Averaging about 14 points a game. And this guy, you know, again, he's been a junior. Good bloodlines, obviously, with his pops, who he is. He hasn't forced anything. I mean, he's scoring the ball when they need him to. He's facilitating. He's handling it. He's doing so many things for Danny Manning's team.
Well, his leadership this season so critical for a team with so many young stars. And Childress again from downtown. He's got 8.
And there really hasn't been any life from Davidson, frankly. I mean, these are open shots. He was wide open. 0 sense of urgency so far from Davidson.
Sharapowicz checks in, and a quick trigger. He connects from downtown. 27-16. Childress, he check. Rebound for the Deeks. Michael Wynn just checked in moments ago. Here's Horde. Lost the handle, 8 to shoot. Wynn penetrating, rejected. Brajkovic snuck in there, got a hand on it.
Yeah, it was good help. Came over with authority, came over aggressive to make a play.
And a timeout on the floor. Wake Forest, the Deeks, out in front by 9, still early. Wake Forest 7 of 10 from downtown. Deeks with a big lead against Davidson, but moments ago, Luke Frampton appeared to aggravate his right shoulder. And in fact, Chris, that was the reason for the last time out. And if Frampton is down, minus Kellen Grady, that is a major issue for a team battling injuries.
That's a huge issue because he's that secondary scorer with Kellen Grady out. And I would imagine he'll come back, but a guy, as you mentioned, who has battled injuries throughout his career, he wears that big knee brace on his knee.
Tore his ACL a year ago. He's battled back, battled a timeout. Cherapowicz off the mark. A fresh 30. And Davidson not bashful with the three-point attempts, as you would expect, but off the mark. I mentioned the first matchup between these two since 2000. Davidson and Wake Forest played a bunch before that. He's inside, no shot. Fouls on the court. But you like to get these teams playing each other. Not a lot of distance between the two. Less than an hour drive down to Davidson from here in Winston-Salem. So it's not a bad deal as the foul goes against Pritchett.
Well, it's easier said than done. I mean, like a lot of these Power Fives in this area have played and do play Davidson. But, you know, whatever you play Davidson, there's a chance you're going to lose that game. I mean, they are that good. Bob McKillop is that good. This program is outstanding. And as I said at the top, they're really hard to defend because of how they play offense. It is advanced offense. Cuts, curls, movement, the extra pass. There's not a lot of teams doing offensively what Davidson does, and it's hard to match up with.
An advanced shot by Childress, who has 11. Open three, Cherapowicz throws up a brick, and Davidson out of sync here early. Like Childress, the sweet kiss moments ago.
He has become such a good player on that end. And Danny Manning, I think Danny Manning would like to take him off the ball more, but he's also really facilitating and initiating their offense.
Shondi Brown lost the handle. Back to the Wildcats.
You always love when the teardrop comes out. And Brandon Childress on this last possession, there is, look at the hesitation, gets the defense to stand up and then the drop over the top. Teardrops in heaven. Wasn't that a song?
I think it is. Childress top 10 in the ACC in scoring and dropping dimes. He dropped that shot in high off the glass there. Worry about his minutes late in this season if those continue to stockpile, because Danny Manning really can't afford to take him off the floor. Isaiah Mucius checking in for the first time. One in gray for Wake Forest.
Wow, what a move.
Sweet look. Brajkovic.
He is going to be a star. He really is. He's got to get a lot stronger. He's got to get thicker, but he has a terrific game in the post. That there, one-on-one, he saw it, took his time.
Ooh. Lob to Horde off the glass. Horde with 10.
We've talked a lot about Davidson's offense and their execution. How about Wake Forest in this first half? A nice set play there, a good pass, and it's nice to have a finisher like Horde.
Not a lot of contested shots as Davidson has struggled defensively. Goodmanson, his first bucket. Deeks 12, 21 from the floor, 7 of 10 from distance. We'll try to set up Horde here against Brajkovic. Good matchup. In and out on the fadeaway. Well, if that one drops, everybody excited because he's shown the whole arsenal.
Yes. You'd see the 20 scouts in here all stand up.
Former GM for the Cavaliers in attendance tonight.
Kobe Altman.
That's right. Brajkovic down low, banks it in.
See, and now he knows he's not being doubled. And not that, inside, Wake Forest has good length. They have good athletes. But what a play by Brajkovic.
He's got 6, and the Wildcats back in it.
Jalen Horde is a 5-star recruit, only a freshman, but he is one of these new age type of interchangeable parts, can play 4 different positions, and you're seeing why. He can shoot it, he can dribble it, put it on the floor, make a play, can make a defensive play, and then there in the pick and roll over the top. Again, 6'8", good size, 10 already here tonight, averaging about 15 on the season, and he's one of these guys, Roy, as he starts to understand the speed of the game, he picks up that motor, his growth becomes exponential. What a start he's had here.
I love what you told me earlier today, and I thought it spoke volumes with really not saying a ton. You said, you know, he looks taller than 6'8". Yeah. He looks bigger than 215, and the translation there is he looks really good. He's a great athlete, and he's obviously playing at a high level. Foul inside goes on Frampton. That's his first. So Luke Frampton back on the court. That's a good sign for the Wildcats as Horde sits on the bench. Critical final 4 minutes of our first half, especially from a Davidson perspective. Nine to shoot. Sharon Wright Jr., the elbow jumper. And an opportunity now for the Wildcats.
Trailer.
Quiet start. John Axel Goodmanson so far.
He had a tough night against Temple. I thought their length and athleticism bothered him. A little bit the same here tonight against Wake. They need to get him going though.
Shot clock did not reset. On cue, too strong. The putback off the mark. Brajkovic had his shot bother. And don't forget Thursday, we mentioned it earlier. The top basketball games of the week, Duke and Texas Tech, number 12 versus number 2, live from MSG. The first ever meeting between these two programs. Of course, you can watch it on the ESPN app as well as on ESPN2, starting at 7 o'clock Eastern. Red Raiders, strong program down there in Lubbock.
You know, Chris Beard is one of the 5 best practices I've ever watched. I mean, he has great energy. They're going to be tough to guard because they run a traditional motion offense. He worked for Bob Knight. He worked with Pat Knight. He comes from that motion offense school, and then their man-to-man defense is tough. It's physical. They have good athletes. And Jared Culver, now a sophomore, is having a terrific season.
Pass was intended. Ucius couldn't corral it, and a turnover. Still a 9-point deficit for Davidson here on the road. Beautiful ball movement, what you would expect from a Davidson club. Three-pointer off the mark by Collins. Brandon Childress for Wake Forest has made all the right decisions tonight. Deeks operating at peak offensive efficiency. Wow. A rare miss. Brown claims the rebound and an offensive foul. So Brown picks up his second. Deeks already in the bonus. And just the third team foul against Wake Forest there. We wondered if Wake Forest would be a little rusty, but Davidson coming off the heels of that overtime loss against Temple, trying to shake that setback off. And it was kind of a weird loss too. Davidson, you mentioned it, had a nice lead late in OT, gave up an 8-0 run to end that game. There was some controversy with a shot clock violation that perhaps could have been called.
Absolutely. The other thing too, like Temple needed a miraculous bank shot 3 from Quentin Rose. That was one of the threes to cut the lead to 3. And then Shiz Alston hits a deep 30-footer with about 30 seconds left to tie the game. So, I mean, they got 2 miraculous shots. Davidson had a bad turnover. It's just one of those games where you go home and it's going to linger for a long time.
Good look by Brajkovic, but stepping out of bounds was Goodmanson. Now, the Wildcats had 8-2, picked 3rd in the preseason Atlantic 10 poll. See the overtime loss to Temple, who always seems to have a great backcourt. I'll tell you this, so Davidson got off to a slow start last year, bounced back to win the A-10 tournament for the first time in school history. If you're Bob McKillop, I don't want to suggest you're playing with house money at 8-2, but his team grew so much in regular season play last year. If the same thing happens, look out.
Yeah. Well, we said all that about the Temple game. They played the other night without Kellen Grady. They are again tonight. And like we said, they played that game 36 hours ago. I mean, that's no excuse, but they have been a little flat here tonight, and they haven't made shots. And that's a big part of Davidson being good. They have to make three-point shots.
4 to shoot for Childress. Rejected at the rim, and here come the Wildcats. More than 4 minutes since the last Wake Forest bucket. We get the sense this is a big possession. Almost to halftime. Goodmanson turns it over. And Johnson hacked. Foul go against Carter Collins. That's his second.
Yeah, Goodmanson just doesn't look right. I mean, like, you got to take that shot. You get in the paint there. It was a nice shot fake to get that left drive. He's unsure of himself, and I think part of it is he's worried about that length and athleticism at the rim from Wake Forest. You go back to that Jalen Horde block shot at the start of the game. I mean, that lingers in a player's mind, especially a guard.
It's our first free throw attempt in this matchup, and one more coming for Torrey Johnson. Grad transfer from Northern Arizona, was the leading scorer there last year. Anxious to get your opinion at some point.
Wow,
Chris,
that's a change. You're never anxious to get my opinion.
That's right. But on the grad transfers, we're seeing more of it in college basketball. It's almost like free agency has taken over at times. You see his numbers from a year ago. A couple of free throws there.
Oh, and then the other thing we're getting now is these waivers. So now the undergrads are being eligible, and it's like the NCAA is granting these waivers in these back rooms, these cloak and dagger deals. There's zero transparency. Nobody knows why one guy's getting a waiver and one guy's not. There's zero competitive balance with a system like that. Would you like me to go on?
I would. That's fantastic.
You said you wanted my opinion.
And I agree, because it really is changing the complexion of the sport right before our eyes. Lead is 11 after another careless turnover by Davidson. Wildcats get it back. Goodmanson needs this bucket, and he gets it. He's got 4, and the lead dwindles to 9. Shot clock is off. And the Deeks, last field goal coming with 5:31 remaining in the half. And a stoppage in play.
It's good for John Axel Goodmanson to get himself a layup, try to get him going, particularly before the half. How about that hustle? First to the floor, you come up with a loose ball, you buy your team a possession, and you get points on the other end. And it's good to get that guy a layup. Has not shot it well, perhaps a lingering effect. Went 3 of 11 against Temple, only 2 of 5 here tonight, and really it's the 5 that stands out to me. Only 5 shots from him. And Bob McKillop trying to get him going.
There's a wet spot on the playing surface. By the way, I don't want any more opinions. We'll focus on this game the rest of the night.
You don't ask, all right, Roy? Sometimes you don't even have to ask. I'm just going to give it to you.
That's what I love about Chris Spatola. Coach McKillop carrying that loss against Temple with him a little bit today. Probably not pleased with the effort so far by this crew. 7 seconds remaining. Childress turns it over. And our first half comes to a close. Davidson trails by 9.
Yeah, and credit Wake. I thought defensively they switched a lot, did a nice job against Davidson, and then they made shots. 7 threes from Wake Forest in this first half.
Childress with 11, Horde with 10, and our halftime score, Wake Forest out in front of Davidson 33-24. Great start for Horde. Coming up after the break, we'll send you to the studio for the halftime report. And a fight on our hand here tonight in Winston-Salem. 33-24, Wake Forest leading Davidson as we get set for the start of our second half. Great to have you with us, as always, alongside of Chris Spatola, Roy Philpott, and Wake Forest 7 of 10 from downtown in those first 20 minutes. really the story of this game so far.
It was. They're shooting 48% from the field. They're 7 of 10 from 3. And in this game, if we were going to say threes were the difference, you'd think it was Davidson. But, Wake's done a nice job. They didn't take any bad shots. They've been unselfish. And it's really a collection of guys. Jalen Hort's hit 2. Shawnee Brown's hit 2. And there's Childress. He has 3 of them. And I thought their defense complemented their offense as well. They did a nice job, I think, on the other end, forcing Davidson into some tough shots. And then on the other end, they've made Davidson work defensively and try to chase them off the line. But they've been so efficient, Roy. Again, 48% from the field from a Wake offense that has struggled at times this season.
Bob McKillop told us earlier today the length of Wake Forest concerned him, especially on the perimeter. And so far, Davidson out of sync offensively. That is one of several reasons why. Start of our second half coming up. Critical non-conference matchup. ACC and A10. Start of our second half back in Winston-Salem. No Kellen Grady, and that has been an issue for Davidson. The Wildcats on the road trail by 9. Chris Spatola, Roy Philpott, great to have you with us. And for the Deeks, Childress, Hoare doing the bulk of the damage, as did Shawnee Brown. Deeks 7 of 10 from downtown.
Yeah, and again, I thought they were patient offensively. It's not like they didn't force anything. It was they played a mature level of offensive basketball in that first half, but it started with their defense. If you can shut out, which they essentially did, a Davidson offense that can be really explosive, you've done a nice job. But this second half, you're going to have to do that because Davidson can fill it up quickly.
Lowest scoring half of the season for the Wildcats out of the A10 in a foul against Wake Forest inside. That'll go against Hoare, and that'll be his first.
John Axel Goodmanson's going to have something to say about this game. And I think Wake did a nice job. They've rotated different guys on him. They've used their length, their athleticism to bother him. They're denying him at times in the half court.
Pritchett against Hoare. And the lefty goes to work inside. A good opening possession for the Wildcats.
You love it when a guy goes right to work, and there's a diversity to his game as well. Plays on the perimeter, but shows you there he's got a little post to him.
Pritchett with 7. The lead is 7. Hoare the turnaround. In and out. And here comes Davidson. Kenna Smart with a point-blank opportunity to transfer from Buffalo. Helped lead the Bulls to the second round of the dance last year. Brajkovic back to the basket. Well, that's been his spot. Spins it in. The lead is 5.
I'm telling you, that is the few. They lost a big guy in Peyton Aldridge. They are gaining one in this freshman. And he has played internationally. Averaged 18-11 at the FIBA under 18. He's played a lot of basketball, but how about that advanced post play? This right here. I mean, you love it when a big guy recognizes how he's being defended. One-on-one, okay, I'm going to go to work. There's that offhand to the left, a nice drop step. Really good footwork. Wait till he puts on some muscle and some strength and grows his game.
Send it back to 35 in red once again. Already with 9 points. And the push-off. Kenna Smart, the guilty party. That's his first.
It's amazing, these international big guys, how good their footwork is. And to me, it starts there for big guys. You got to have good position. You got to have an angle. But when you have the ability to create the angle with your footwork, you become exceptional. And for a freshman big guy to do what he is capable of on the block, you can see he's been coached well.
Davidson in the midst of a 10-2 run going back to the first half. And let's take that a step further. The big man in college basketball, bit of a lost art. Goodmanson connects. And don't look now, but a one-possession game here in Winston. I mean, do they teach big man skills anymore at this level? Everybody calls it a guard-oriented sport, and it is, but you just don't see the bigs with that level of footwork and that dedication to the craft.
A big part of coaching a big guy nowadays is getting him to want to be a big guy. I mean, that's the first thing. Most of these post players now don't want to play in the post. They want to go out and handle and shoot and do all those things that Danny Manning could do when he played. But that's why most European big guys, they embrace it earlier, in my experience. And that's where once they do that, once they realize, okay, I'm going to be a low block player, now you can begin to work.
Meanwhile, a nice response from Torrey Johnson. He has 5, 3 the hard way there. And the lead is back to 6. I feel like you took me to school right there with the big man. That was good.
You're hitting on, I've done a lot of psychotherapy on big guys. They can be big headaches, and I don't want to slander the entire population here tonight, but the big guys can be a little bit different.
Rare miss for Brajkovic. Childress was fouled on the follow-through. And 3 shots coming as Collins just picked up his 4th personal.
Just an uncharacteristic Davidson type play. He goes under the screen, which is a no-no against Childress. He realizes it, tries to recover, and there's no question that's a foul. Goes right at the shooter's legs.
Davidson without the services of Kellen Grady for the 2nd straight contest. Now Collins with 4 personals. Childress continues to feast on the competition tonight. We talked to his dad, associate head coach Randolph Childress, earlier during shoot-around. He came up, introduced himself. I said, Randolph, you're still the best shooter in the gym. And he said, there's no question. And he said, the guys on the team know it.
There is no question. He was telling us he was at some father-son shooting contest, and Brandon was not making shots. And he turned to me and said, look, I'm going to tell people you're adopted unless you start making some shots.
I still think back to that one play against Jeff McGinnis, the ACC tournament. Told him to come get him some. Drain the 3.
Oh, boy, now.
That was nasty.
That's the thing about Wake. You go down the list of players they've had here now. You'll go to bat against anybody in this conference. Tim Duncan, Chris Paul. I mean, you go back a ways with this Wake program, and it's got, the tradition here is so good.
Frampton off the mark. Deeks back to an 8-point advantage. Inside, and when Smart's connecting in traffic, that's a really good sign for Wake Forest.
You mentioned he played at Buffalo last year. Of course, Buffalo upset Arizona in the NCAA tournament. I thought his size and bulk gave DeAndre Ayton a hard time in that game. It was really a big part of Buffalo winning.
Bulls off to a great start again this season. How about Furman? How about some love for the Paladins? Undefeated out of the SoCon, upset Villanova. Ranked inside the top 25 for the first time. Brajkovic down low. Nifty move in traffic, and he connects.
Well, it's nifty if you're afforded an extra step. That said, it was a nice finish. Listen to you. You love these big guys.
I do. Brajkovic with 11, and he's just a freshman. Back to an 8-point advantage. Wake Forest has had the lead. It's our opening tip. Catch and shoot. Brajkovic doing a little bit of everything tonight. Scoring, rebounding, altering shots. He'll try his hand. Top of the key. And a running rebound by Shawnee Brown. Now, Chris, you get the sense momentum teetering between both sides.
Yeah, and a good start to the half by Davidson. Of course, Brandon Childress really stymied that. You foul a three-pointer, you give him free throws.
Frampton, fade away, short.
That's a tough shot.
And Childress set up the offense. Brown open. And the battle for the loose ball back to Davidson. Boy, you love the pace with Brandon Childress so far.
You love him engineering your offense. Here he does. He clears the board and then he pushes. He's got his eyes up. surveying, scanning. Nice delivery there, Brandon Childress.
Everybody's talking about it. 12 days from now, the college football playoff semifinals on ESPN. Number 2 Clemson, third-ranked Notre Dame in the Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic. That'll kick things off at 4 o'clock Eastern, 1 Pacific. The number 1 Alabama, 4th-ranked OU in the Capital One Orange Bowl. Both games, of course, on the ESPN app. You can watch it anywhere. Chris Patola, who do you like in the college football tournament?
Man, well, if Tua is not right, if he ain't playing, I don't care what Jalen Hurts did in the SEC championship game. Give me Clemson.
Interesting.
Give me Clemson.
Tigers undefeated, Bama unbeaten, so is Notre Dame. Irish, of course, not playing in a conference championship tilt. Davidson turns it over. Pritchett shuffled his feet. That's their 6th miscue. The Deeks leading by 8 back in Winston-Salem. His health of primary importance to everybody who cares about the upcoming playoff. And there's a lot of people that do. It's been a fun year in college football and some dominant teams in the sport. Looking for Sarr down low. Picked up by Brajkovic. Throws it up and in. Olivier Sarr, the center, and 7-footer connects.
Put on some good weight this offseason, about 35 pounds. Out of France. As we said, at that position, he's really a better option than Smart really is.
Smart, a role player at Buffalo, average about 2 and 3 per season. 2 points, 3 boards, and about those same averages so far at Wake Forest. But Sarr, 6.5 and 5.5 early in his career. Brown off the mark, rebound, rejected, but a foul. Free throws coming. Musius have a chance to crack the scoring column.
Yeah, I thought coming into this game that Wake's length and athleticism was going to bother Davidson. And it has, particularly in the paint. What a rebound that was, over the top. And then you get 2 free throws out of it. And, you know, I think both offensively and defensively, that size and length and athleticism has really bothered Davidson. And we saw that a little bit the other night against Temple in that Davidson loss. So much of what Davidson does is about outsmarting you, using execution as an athleticism equalizer. Here tonight, Wake's done a nice job imposing its will.
Musius, a former 4-star prospect, an ESPN Top 100 member at number 72 in the country. Sharon Wright Jr. checks back in. Musius' father played at Alabama A&M. New Hampshire Player of the Year, according to USA Today. So certainly another one of those talented recruits for Danny Manning. Well, Chris, the Wildcats hit their first 3 field goals in this second half. Since then, just 1 for their last 6. And there's a big bucket by Luke Frampton. He's got 5.
Yeah, and he needs to get going. They need a secondary scorer, especially with Goodmanson struggling. Somebody else has to put the ball in the basket. Carter Collins had a good night the other night.
Silky smooth from the baseline. Olivier Sarr with 6. Wildcats out of the Atlantic 10. That's a good basketball conference. St. Louis was picked to win the league this year. St. Joe's 2nd, Davidson 3rd. Billikens were undefeated before a loss to Houston.
How about this move right here? Little inside pivot, Sigma, face up, and that's his 2nd face up mid-range shot in this game tonight. Only a sophomore. I mean, this is the young talent that Danny Manning was talking about, and you know, you got to give it time to fully vest, but that's an advanced play in the post.
I'm going to go back 14 words ago. I think you slipped in a Jack Sigma reference. Is that what that was?
Are you counting my words now? Are we have come to this?
I thought that's what I heard.
Am I on a word count? Sigma. That's what, you know, little inside pivot. How about that?
I like that.
It's old school, baby. Old school
like
post play right there. That's what the non-athletes who play in the post, they've got the Sigma move.
The Sigma move. Goodmanson high off the glass and kisses that one in.
How about that? Do you know that there are no surnames or family names in Iceland? That Icelanders use the traditional Nordic naming system? I bet you don't know what that is, Roy.
I do not.
Where a last name is going to be made up of either the father or mother's first name. So Gudmundsson's dad's first name is Gudmund. So he's Gudmund's son.
Right high off the backboard, my partner waxing poetic about Icelandic names and dropping some knowledge in the process.
Did you know that Iceland is 39,000 square miles? It's about the size of Ohio, Roy.
Inside and on cue, John Axel Gudmundsson trying to get Davidson back in it.
I bet John Axel Gudmundsson knows that beer remained illegal in Iceland until 1989. What is that about, Roy? Come on.
Elam, the ACC is strong as ever. 5 teams right now, Chris, ranked inside the top 13.
Yeah, I mean, look, all 5 of those teams are potential Final Four teams. Virginia Tech's got some more work to do, particularly without Chris Clark. But I saw Florida State last week against UConn. They are old, they're athletic, they're long. Carolina, obviously, the other night against Gonzaga was a different defensive team. We've seen Duke a lot and know they're talented. And Virginia, the thing about Virginia this year, DeAndre Hunter gives them something that I don't think they have had. That's that versatile, athletic pro who, man, is he a big-time player.
Gudmundsson with 10, the first free throws of the night for Davidson right there, and the lead is 6. Chris Patola, Roy Philpott, here inside Joel Coliseum. A-10 versus ACC tonight. These two matching up for the first time in 19 seasons. Poured down low. Can't finish.
And he had to get it back to his right. You got to shoot that with your left, and he came across his body so he could get back to his right hand.
Gudmundsson, the floater, short. Brajkovic. And Pritchett hit the deck, as well as Okeke. And the held ball favors Wake Forest. So in your mind, Virginia, after how last season ended, a lot of people, I think, have been somewhat down on the Cavs this year, but they're going to win a bunch of games. They're going to be right there.
Yeah. I mean, the question I have about Virginia is not the style of play. Like, their style of play, I'm convinced on. I mean, they're winning 35 games last year. They win the ACC, win the ACC tournament. That loss, I'm not judging that. I just told you how good DeAndre Hunter is, and he wasn't in that game against UMBC. The question I have this year is their talent level. Like that backcourt, I think Kyle Guy and Ty Jerome are good. How good can they become against more athletic teams that they're going to face? That's my one question this year. Even with Hunter, I don't think they're quite as talented as they've been over the last couple years, especially if Braxton Key doesn't begin to play better. They expected more out of him.
Transfer from Alabama, immediately eligible. And Sarr, right place, right time. Wake Forest starts this second half 0 for 3 from downtown after a 7 for 10 start in our first 20 minutes. It just seems like Virginia's been a bit under the radar given how last season ended, the first 16-1 in NCAA tournament history. Pritchett, a couple of big man moves. Can't get the bounce. He'll shoot 2. Luka Brajkovic also with his second double-double of the season, 11 points, 10 boards for 35 in red as Horde just picked up his second. Pritchett at the stripe, 67% this season. Well, speaking of bloodlines, his cousin was a wide receiver at West Virginia. Pritchett, a team captain this year, 1 of 3 for Bob McKillop's club. And you got to give some credit here to Davidson, too. Without Kellen Grady for the second straight game, off to a slow start. Really done a nice job to hang around in this one. Pritchett now with 9.
Well, that's why the loss to Temple ends up being such a big one, because you're playing without Kellen Grady in that game, and you have that one. And that's where the other night, guys like Carter Collins stepped up. Pritchett played well. And Luke Hampton had a career night. They really haven't had some of these other guys step up here tonight, and yet they're only down 6.
Halfway through our second half. Pump fake. Kovacevic lost the handle. 7 turnovers for Davidson. Olivier Sarr has the last 6 Wake Forest points. That'll end there. Strong move for Horde. One thing you love about his game, he's patient. And he doesn't rush the shot. He lets the game come to him.
I was talking to a scout, one of the scouts that's here out in the hall during halftime, and that's the thing he said. It was that he plays at such a good pace. And a lot of times, young players, especially in the paint, you can speed them up. Not Jalen Horde.
Childress fouled on the floor.
Here's this steal, and this is where vintage Davidson, normally those big guys, those trails, they knock down that shot, but you get the turnover on one end and then points on the other. Jalen Horde on the block, and that's where Davidson has struggled in that game against Temple. 18 turnovers, 31 points off of those turnovers for Temple, and here tonight, Davidson not taking care of the ball. Very uncharacteristic.
I do need one more Icelandic fact before we're done with this broadcast. I'm just throwing it out there.
I got a whole host.
I don't know that I need it right now, but before we're done.
Do you know that there are no McDonald's in Iceland? None. And yet the consumption of Coca-Cola in Iceland per capita is higher than any country. But no McDonald's. So they draw the line there, which I can respect.
Wildcats turn it over. They're 8. Approaching 8 to play. Inside Sarr on the alley-oop, can't finish. Goodmanson pushing. Gets it back, puts it in. He's got 12. Johnny A as Davidson back in it. Wildcats have been hovering around this 6 to 8 point deficit for most of our second half.
Where does Goodmanson hail from?
Iceland.
Oh.
Step back. Shondi Brown. You're just bringing it back full circle.
I was just wondering why I had all these Icelandic facts, and when you sent me that text earlier, prepare all your Icelandic knowledge.
Brajkovic already a double-double, throws that one in. 50 to 44. He's got 13.
Where's he from?
Austria.
You got me.
They do have McDonald's in that great country. Brown will feed the post, and Horde fouled from behind. Pritchett, the guilty party. Wake Forest basketball. Good one here in Winston-Salem when we come back.
The Austrian Luka Brajkovic, a big part of why Davidson only down 6 in this game. Advanced play in the post, only a freshman. He's catching it, surveying, and watch the footwork, making like Gregory Hines with the feet in there, and he has used both hands. I mean, you just don't see that out of a lot of freshman big guys. 13 points tonight, 10 boards, and has really dealt with that length and athleticism up front from Wake.
You think about Davidson basketball, the three-point shot, one of the first aspects that comes to your brain. They've only attempted 2 in the second half, have yet to connect with 1. And you see Brajkovic playing for the under-18 national team in Austria. But his points in that production, 28 of Davidson's 44 total points, coming in the paint. He's been one of the big reasons why.
Yeah.
Fun to watch, too.
Well, Bob McKillop has a long history recruiting overseas, has coached a lot, does a lot of clinics overseas, has a nice pipeline of international players.
And McKillop has done such a great job building the brand of Davidson hoops for these 3 decades.
Nice pass.
Good look. Brajkovic the finish.
What a pass and catch. I mean, the finish becomes fundamental. But once you make that initial good high screen, a pass and catch. Nicely done.
Wildcats shooting above 50% here in our second half. Ford, the kind bounce, puts that one in. 14 points for the freshman.
And a good response. Wake Forest has had the response here tonight.
Wildcats without the services. Their leading scorer, Kellen Grady, out for the second straight game with a knee injury. He's listed as day-to-day. From the wing, Cherapowicz off the mark. Deeks have led by as many as 14 tonight. Davidson with just one lead. That was at 3-2. Since then, it's been all Wake Forest. Horde back to work. Nearly tied up, and a late whistle. Foul called against the Wildcats.
What a bad, I don't like that call. That was good help. A nice little scrape and dig. How about this, though? A bullet right on the money. Great pair of hands from Brajkovic. And then the layup becomes elementary, my dear.
Oh.
Roy Philpott.
You are on fire.
But that's good, just basic pick and roll basketball. And then here on the other end, I did not like that call. It was a good dig on the post. I thought he had the ball.
Brown missed the chippy. Wake Forest now in the bonus for the final 6 minutes. 12 boards for Brajkovic. Well, you wonder, does Davidson have that one last run to have a chance to tie this one up or take the lead? Brajkovic, little pump fake, draws the double team. Good defense.
Very good defense. Kept his feet, and that's not easy.
Horde down low, held by Pritchett. That'll be his fourth. 1-1 coming for Wake Forest.
Wake Forest does a nice job throwing the ball inside, and Bob McKillop said that to us earlier today. How do you beat Wake? And one of the things he brought up was they initiate a lot of offense by throwing it inside. And now the ball may come back out, but we've seen a lot tonight, those early posts where the first big guy down is planting himself right in front of the rim like Horde just did there. And you get that defender on your back, and it's hard to defend.
First free throw of the night for Horde. 66% on the season. The offense is run through the talented freshman, Brajkovic. Frampton, quick trigger on the triple. And a chance for three the hard way. Instead, wave off the bucket, offensive foul. Musius. Thought that he was going to have a chance.
Yeah, what a play. He misses the shot on the one, gets back, steps in, and that is a charge. That's textbook. Gets himself outside that restricted area. Look at this. Takes it right to the chest. That is an offensive foul, folks.
First on Isaiah. Frampton coming back from that torn ACL. Hurt his shoulder earlier tonight. Toughing this one out. Bob McKillop telling us today, when he was healthy, he could throw it down with just about anybody. Getting close to 100%, but still with work to do. The lead is 6 for Wake. 5 minutes to go here at Jolt Coliseum. Don't forget, coming up Thursday, top 12 matchup. For the first time ever, Texas Tech and Duke, 12 versus 2. Live from New York City, 7 o'clock on Thursday over on ESPN2. Another chance to catch Zion Williamson, Barrett, and company for Coach K's club. What a start for number 2 Duke. The Red Raiders also undefeated through the heart of December.
Where do you think she got that hat from?
I don't know. Iceland?
You want more? What do you want? What are you asking for?
Wildcats trail by 6. Chris Patola, Roy Philpott here in Winston-Salem. Goodmanson outside to Pritchett. Davidson still without a triple in this second half.
And that's hard to believe. It really is. And they've had good looks. I mean, that was a good set out of the timeout. They get the baseline drive. And Pritchett just can't get it to go.
Wildcats 4 of 18 from downtown. Missed their last 9 three-point attempts. Golden opportunity for the Deeks. Keep this team out of the Atlantic 10 is Jalen Horde. Another basket, he's got 16. They're right there at his average this year. And you can't do that. Goodmanson gives it right back.
And I think he has missed Grady the most. I do. I mean, the last 2 games, he has not been his best self. And, you know, you take away his running mate in Kellen Grady, I think it's forced a lot onto John Axel Goodmanson.
Deeks once led by 14, a chance to make it double digits again, and they do. McKenna Smart, a transfer from Buffalo. He's got 4. Under 4 to play. And the Deeks starting to pull away in this one. Goodmanson. Collins. Big triple from the corner.
Wow, that was big. And he filled to the baseline off of the penetration, and a good find by Goodmanson.
Collins had a career high 16 versus Temple, replacing Grady. First points of the night right there. Horde, top of the key. And a loose basketball controlled by Luke Frampton. Another big possession for Davidson. Goodmanson, boy, was hit hard, hit the deck hard. And free throws coming up. Davidson trailing by 7.
Wake has been such a force inside. McKenna Smart. I don't know if he took a step, maybe, but he finishes.
Danny Manning, Bob McKillop going over last-minute instructions for the Deeks and for Davidson, respectively. Wake Forest with a 7-point lead, the only lead tonight for Davidson, way back at 3-2. He's Chris, I'm Roy. Great to have you with us tonight. For Davidson, you got some free throws coming up. What do the Wildcats have to do final couple of minutes?
Well, you'd love if they could knock down a 3. They're 5 of 19 tonight.
Wow.
This is a team that makes 10 a game. They've had to piecemeal an offense. And give Wake credit. Again, they've done a nice job switching against that motion offense of Davidson. They've used their length to really disrupt those three-point shots. If Brajkovic doesn't show up, play the game he's had. Goodmanson has struggled at times, but has still been able to score the ball a little bit in this second half. But it has really been a piecemeal for Davidson offensively.
More Nordic information for those that are inclined to care about such things like my partner here.
Did you know that the national sport in Iceland is handball?
Amazing.
Handball.
I did not know that. Couple of free throws, very important for Johnny A to make it a 5-point game. 3 minutes to go. With a slow start by Goodmanson. He's bounced back, 5 of 9 from the floor, 14 points. 4 off his average. Johnson throws it up and in. And a chance for 3 for Torrey Johnson.
Every time Davidson has cut it to 5 or less tonight, Wake has had a response. And they just have had a response. Again, out of the pick and roll, and he goes downhill, finishes through the contact. What a finish. And how about the bench? Good set of hair on that trio right there, really keeping it clean and loving that bucket.
Johnson, 7 points, a grad transfer from Northern Arizona.
And then a nice beard on my man, the strength guy.
We're working on ours up here at the booth. A lot of work to do. Also for the Wildcats.
All this crossing stuff. Wake has done such a nice job. The dribble handoffs.
Open look from the corner. Pritchett. And rebounded by Smart.
Well defended. And Davidson gets an open 3 again. I mean, that's a Davidson shot right there. Just can't make it.
Wildcats defending A10 champs, lost 3 starters from that NCAA tournament team last year. They've lost Kellen Grady the last 2 games, including tonight, and it's been a big setback. Childress. Ahead to Goodmanson. And a foul. Will put John Axel back at the line.
What a break here from Davidson. There's the defensive play. How about Pritchett getting in there? Good outlet, and then a nice thread of the needle to get Goodmanson to the line.
John Axel Goodmanson, preseason A-10 third team. Second leading scorer, trailing only Brady. Has one more free throw coming. Now with 15 points.
He played 45 minutes in their game against Temple the other night. He's just had to work. I mean, with Grady out, he's had to put in a lot more on his shoulders. Did not come out of that game that went to overtime.
Deeks have led by as many as 14. We're as close as 4 here in our second half, and a timeout on the floor. Wake Forest by 7. Seven-point lead for the Deeks here at home. Wake Forest trying to win its 6th game of the season. Chris Spatola, Roy Philpott, Iceland natives everywhere rejoicing in the broadcast tonight. And we appreciate you wherever you may be watching this evening. And if you're a fan of the Deeks, gotta like what you've seen so far.
Yes, you do. The future is bright. The junior Brandon Childress has been outstanding, but that freshman Jalen Horde, as we saw, has been good. I mean, and I thought their defense, you know, they had the layoff with exams, and one of the things Danny Manning really wanted to work on was their man-to-man defense, and it has been good tonight.
Well, we asked him, hey, what's the key to playing a team, to defend a team that can shoot the three so effectively? And he said, you know what? You got to know your personnel. Don't forget also, coming up Monday Night Football, after Monday Night Football on SportsCenter with Scott Van Pelt. He'll wrap up the Saints and the Panthers, plus Bulls Thunder highlights, Grizz Warriors updates, and a Monday night staple, the worst beats of the weekend. SportsCenter with SVP on tonight and tomorrow on ESPN, also with the ESPN app.
You know, it's been a byproduct of the broadcast tonight. Now have people tweeting at me Icelandic facts as if I need them. What else do you want, people?
Tell me about the mosquitoes in Iceland.
None. Good one. You know what, Roy? There are 0 mosquitoes in Iceland. I bet you didn't know that.
I bet Bob McKillop knows that.
I'm sure he does.
All right, final 97 seconds. Wake Forest with possession. Davidson 2 timeouts to work with. Wildcats need a couple of stops and maybe a couple of triples. Johnson. Strong finish at the rack. He's got 7. Make that 9.
What a tough finish.
Frampton. And that sequence, a microcosm of the night. Some hard contact. The Smart hit the deck.
You love when your team executes out of a timeout. And here's Wake Forest. They get that timeout when they couldn't inbound it, the possession before, and then just poorly defended. But a nice back cut there by Torrey Johnson. And that's, you know, at this point in the game, minute left, that's a monster bucket by Johnson.
Lead is 9. They'll stay on this end of the court. In and out for Goodmanson, and a foul inside against Wake Forest. Frampton claimed the board. Both teams in the bonus as Johnson picks up his second. And Frampton, 6 of 10 at the line this year, will shoot 2.
You assume he makes the second, and now Davidson's going to have to pick up, and it's not really something they do. I mean, they're not a forcing turnover, high turnover type team. They're not a pressing team. That's a big miss by a guy who normally is pretty automatic.
West Virginia native is Luke Frampton. His older brother played at Marshall. Coming back from that ACL tear, 1 of 2 at the stripe. Substitutions coming in. Malcolm Winter checks in for the first time. David Cherapowicz as well. Looking for a steal and perhaps a quick foul. That's what Winter does. And that'll put Childress at the line.
And that's the guy you want if you're Danny Manning.
83% this year. I wonder what it's like to have Dad breathing in your ear all the time when it comes to shooting. I mean, you better be a good shooter if you're the son of Randolph Childress.
Boy, could he play. Oh, my goodness. He was a delight to watch.
See the banner, the rafters. That one ACC tournament turned into the best player this planet's ever seen for about 4 days. Now the Deacs off to a 5-3 start, trying to make it 6-3, picked 11th. A rough and rugged ACC, their upcoming schedule, with some challenges. Its league play begins on January 5th on the road in Atlanta, and then Tennessee looming this coming Saturday. Rick Barnes used to coach at Clemson in the Atlantic Coast Conference, then at Texas, has the Vols rolling this year.
Yes, he does. And the thing I love about the way that he's done it, it's been organic. I mean, those guys that he has now have grown through that program. You know, this league's going to be tough this year. And I think there's part of Danny Manning in the non-conference, the way he scheduled, wanted to grow his team, knew it was going to be young, had a lot of new pieces. But once you get into that ACC, you're thrown into the fire.
You saw earlier 5 teams ranked inside the top 13. More probably will be ranked later in the year. My question for you, how many teams make the tournament from the ACC?
I don't think it's 11. I mean, I think that's a pie in the sky type of number. It'll be probably about what we've seen. I would think 9, as I looked at it this morning, would be about as far as I would go. But think of the strength at the top. I mean, we showed that graphic earlier. You got 5 teams in the top 15 from this league.
Dad watching son. Brandon, of course, the leading scorer for the Deacs. Almost 17 per game this year. Big free throw.
Big free throw.
Randolph told us that he keeps a running tab, the top shooters on the team. And he adjusts it like the AP poll from week to week. He's waiting for his son to claim the top spot. So far, that hasn't happened. And by the way, number 1 is Randolph himself. His son now with 15. Goodmanson. Stay the Wildcats. Well, if the Deacs can hold on, certainly would be a big win against a team that reached the tournament last year, that won its conference a season ago. And Danny Manning's looking for those kinds of baby steps with his team that's so young. Brajkovic, strong finish. He's got 17, lead is 8, less than a minute to go. Let's be honest, Chris, the last couple of years, these kinds of wins have been few and far between in non-conference play for Wake Forest. You got a young team, you lost 5 letter winners from last year's squad. This is certainly something you can build upon.
Well, playing Davidson will never hurt you because, now they're in the Atlantic 10. They're not in the Southern Conference where, the Southern Conference, it's going to be good this year, but typically that would take that strength of a Davidson win down. Now they're in the A-10, but they're good. I mean, they're going to have a very good year. Once Grady, you assume Grady comes back and is as good as he was before he got hurt. This is a good team. 8-2 on the season, has some good wins. They're going to build upon that. So playing Davidson never hurts. This is a good win for Wake.
There you see Grady. Meanwhile, Shondi Brown in double figures for the 4th straight game. That's another encouraging sign for Danny Manning's team. His consistency, something this squad desperately needs. Goodmanson the step back 3. And from way downtown, it's now a 2-possession game at 64-58. So don't go anywhere just yet.
Comes down to making free throws. It becomes a free throw making contest.
Goodmanson now with 18. And John Axel, second leading scorer for the Wildcats. Point production finally has arrived.
Well, he gets a big guy on him there. Sarr, doesn't really know quite what to do. And there's also the danger at this point in the game. You don't want to foul, and so, how aggressive can you be on the ball? And Goodmanson, a guy who can just kind of step back, create his space, and shoot it with range. Like I said, this comes down to being able to inbound the basketball and then making your free throws.
Put you on the spot one more time. For Wake Forest, given the youth on this team this year, a successful season is, given the toughness of the ACC.
Yeah, I mean, 500, I think Danny Manning, and look at what they did last year. I mean, that would be not only with this group, specific to this group going 500 in the ACC, but relative to what they did last year, I think you'd be very happy and have something to build on.
500 in the league.
Absolutely.
Punch your ticket to the dance, right?
Depends
that's in the top 10.
Well, it depends on who the wins are against, but yeah, theoretically.
I like putting you on the hot seat there for a second.
Oh, hey, you could put me. It wouldn't be the first time.
Out of the timeout. Johnson will trigger. Childress lost the handle. And a foul against Davidson, and that was oh so close to being a Wake Forest turnover. And I believe Winter gave him the forearm in the back. That'll be his second. Why is it so hard to inbounds the basketball at the end of a game without that kind of drama?
Well, because the defense is as aggressive as they will ever be, because they're not necessarily worried about fouling, because that's ultimately what they're going to do. And there's pressure. Guys get tight, and there's a missed free throw.
Childress, 5 of 7 at the line this evening. He's got 16. Wildcats need a quick bucket. Brajkovic. In and out. And a late whistle, a foul against the Deeks.
And the back official called it because it was a foul. And Teddy Valentine standing under the basket, I don't know why he wouldn't call that, but it was a foul, and the back official called it late because I think he assumed old Teddy V was going to call that.
17 and 14 tonight for Brajkovic. First free throw is a brick. And a big miss.
A big miss.
Bob McKillop going offense for defense. Winner with the 2 fouls, checks back in. 0 for 2 at the line. And a quick whistle.
That's tough. And he's nearly an 80% foul shooter. Misses both, and he's had a great night.
If you're Davidson, certainly bigger and brighter days ahead of you in Atlantic 10 play. You were picked 3rd in that conference this year, having won the tournament a year ago. But imperative Kellen Grady gains health.
Think about their last 2 games. I mean, they had Temple beat. That game goes to overtime without Kellen Grady. And then here tonight, they turn around 36 hours later. They're on the road, and they lose to a Wake Forest team that's been off for 11 days. And then on the other side, I give Wake Forest a lot of credit. There were some measurables that they wanted to see after that 11-day layoff. They wanted to become better defensively, which I thought they did a nice job here tonight. And I thought they were more organized offensively. Weren't quite as high turnover. Made some shots in that first half. And they certainly have some young pieces who are talented.
(65-58), 21 and change remaining. Shondi Brown with 12. I'll label him the X factor for Wake Forest these next couple of weeks. They need double-digit scoring from 23. He's a sophomore, has the tools. 4 straight games in double figures. As time winds down, Goodmanson banks it in. Now that's one way to do it. 67-61. And the Wildcats will utilize their final timeout. All right, if you're Bob McKillop, what are you telling your team right now?
You've got, how about this? The bank is always there. They lost one of those threes that Temple hit the other night. Was Quentin Rose was, I mean, he was in the corner, essentially. It was a bank shot that you shot it 100 times. You might make it once. But, you know, this Davidson team, they are so well coached. Bob McKillop does such a great job.
I think he would trade that 3 for the 3 the other night.
There's no question about it. He was bummed earlier today
at the
shoot around. You could tell.
Well, we will send you to Evanston, Illinois for Northwestern and Chicago State as soon as we are done here in Winston-Salem. Deeks trying to hold on for win number 6. And Davidson would fall to 8-3 if this score holds. Touchdown pass to Childress, who lost his footing and appears to be shaken up. And that is not a good sign.
No, that's not a good sign.
And Childress was able to get up under his own power. Will stay on the floor, but boy, a number of things could have happened there.
Yeah. When he grabbed his knee, that's never good.
Ball goes back to the Wildcats. Less than 10 seconds remaining. Goodmanson's got to hurry. Basket for Brajkovic. 67-63. Davidson needs a steal. And it's never easy to close a game out. Childress learning that hard lesson once again tonight. Good game, entertaining game between these two.
Yeah, it was. And, you know, Davidson, every time they tried to close it, Wake had a response for them. Tell you what, that's some talent over there on that bench. Randolph Childress, Danny Manning. You'd beat a few teams with those 2 dudes.
Could do some damage probably still to this day. Manning, of course, leading Manning and the Miracles. The Kansas Jayhawks to the '88 championship. He was fun to talk to today. I asked him, I said, how many teams did you play for in the league? He said 7 or 8. Because I built a career on being that guy at the end of games, but being a veteran leader. And the Deeks find a way tonight. 67-63 the final score. Wake Forest now 6-3. Davidson falls to 8-3. We send you now to Evanston, Illinois, where Chicago State is taking on Northwestern. Good night from Winston-Salem.